Recently, the TTC reported that in 2019, they lost $70 million due to fare evasion. So now they're trying to combat that issue by implementing things like, for example, a $425 fine if you're caught. So today, we want to hit the streets of Toronto to see how people are feeling. So what are your general thoughts about the fare evasion that's happening in the city?
While I do think it is not good to evade fares, sometimes people do it by accident, and sometimes people generally do make mistakes. So while fare evasion in general is wrong, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
Man, it's expensive to get around. You have to do what you have to do, you know? Like, I can't afford the Presto card. Sometimes I'd be hopping the street cart.
For some people, it's expensive to pay for, the Presto card, like the monthly pass. So, like, if you're doing fare evasion, I feel like it's just not fair. You should just pay. I mean, it's $3.
Do you know about the new fines? They're charging people up to $425 if you're caught fare evading. So what do you think of the new fines? Is it justifiable or is it absolutely ridiculous?
I mean, I see why they have to fine. They kind of have to keep their service going. But it's a ridiculously high fine. I see fare evasion as a crime of opportunity. It's expensive. You have to get around. I think it's more up to the commission to put the infrastructure to prevent fare evasion, as opposed to making people who, I guess, can't afford it try to pay for it afterwards.
It's a little harsh. That is a little harsh. It could really cause some damage to someone's finances. And I think that the amount of the punishment is not really proportional to the crime, I guess. So if you would even call it that, the mistake. So I don't think that the fine of that amount is necessary.
Yeah, it's a really steep fine. So aside from fines, for example, what do you think would be a good punishment or consequence for fare evading?
So maybe a fine of a smaller amount, but I do think that having some sort of warning system would be good as well. So if people were allowed to get away with it with less of a fine, with less of a punishment, or even with no punishment, potentially 3 strikes and then a fine would be, or even 5 strikes and then a fine.
You jumped from 3 to 5 so quickly.
I don't know. I really
It's a hard question. Another point people have been bringing up, which I think is quite interesting, is they're saying if the TTC can charge that much money for fare evasion, then, customers should be rewarded back their money if they're late for work or whatever reason due to the TTC. So what are your thoughts on that? Should people be compensated if they're able to charge these high fines?
I don't know how the TTC will be able to do that. I can't see it giving money back to people. It is struggling for money. But as for fare evasion, it's not the people's problem, it's the TTC's problem. So they should solve it.
Yeah, it makes sense, but of course that's not going to happen because they don't want to lose money at all. So if they can increase penalties, they will. If they can increase fare, they will, but that doesn't mean that the transport is getting better. They're doing a good job in showing the consequence of fare evading. Like everywhere you look, there's a poster of someone fare evading. So that's a good reinforcement because you always look and think twice. But also just having people in the stations paying attention to people that fare evade, because it's easier to just caught them at the time and prevent the money from going away than just increasing fares.
Do you think there's any other way other than fines that, the TTC can enforce to kind of stop people from fare evading?
In New York, for the subway, they have these full body rotation things, so you can't hop them and you can't get behind someone. And it's an infrastructure solution, isn't it? So take lessons from New York, TTC.
I feel like the thing that's causing people to fare evade right now isn't the lack of a fine. I think it's genuine financial need, or it's mistakes like we talked about. So there being a bigger fine isn't really solving the root cause of people's fare evasion. Therefore, I don't think that it's going to change. People just might be a little bit more careful about it, or a bit more sneaky, or try to come up with different ways not to get caught. But I don't think the problem with fare evasion will stop.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.